Howdy, everybody in YouTube land. We are back on the Toshiba T4600c situation here. Now, this isn't the exact one. This one is one that popped up on eBay, and it's been sitting on eBay for a while because the money, what they wanted for it, is just absolutely ridiculous for its condition, because this thing is poor condition, okay? Now, it would go on sale once in a while, and it'd jump back up to 150 bucks. And, I'm not going to pay 150 bucks for something like this. It's just not going to happen. Just not going to happen. So, eventually, the price finally came down far enough to where I finally got it. So, the only reason why I bought this thing, actually, there's a couple reasons. And this thing is rough. Very, very rough. The only reason why I bought this thing is because A, I need the floppy drive, which is going to need belts and all of that fun stuff, of course. But this will be the third try on the floppy drive. But more importantly, I needed the control. I need the motherboard because I need the control chip, because I think, in my case, the controller IC is bad, right? So I guess we're going to find out soon enough. So this machine is in very rough condition, but I don't really care about the operable condition of this machine, but it's definitely seen better days. You can hear plastic pieces just kind of, moving around inside. It's bad. So I took the battery out and I took the RAM card out. So there's the battery. And then I got the RAM card. But the only problem with this RAM card is it doesn't say what size it is. Lifetime warranty. Wonder if they'll still honor that one. Probably not. 9.6 volt, 3 amp power. But anyways, moving right along. I want to get this thing apart. And I want to check the floppy drive and the motherboard and all that stuff. So apparently the complaint on this one is it doesn't power on, which is common with these because that's what was wrong with mine. And it's usually the caps on the motherboard that cause problems, and then the caps in the display assembly that cause problems. Now, the display assembly itself is in really good condition other than the crap all over the screen. So I might save this too as a backup spare for mine. And then that's pretty much it. And I'm curious if the hard drive is still in there. And more importantly, does it still have the factory install? So why don't we get this guy apart and find out what's going on? Now, the only reason why I'm even messing with the machine like this, we got broken plastic bits too. The only reason why I'm messing with a machine like this, especially this particular Toshiba, the only reason is because of the movie Under Siege 2. And what I mean by that is, I remember I was a kid, and I don't remember, I think mom rented it from Blockbuster or something like that, back when it first came out, and I remember sitting in the living room watching it with the family, and I was just so fascinated with all the crazy technology they had in that movie, how, everybody was obsessing over the, oh my god, I have the CD, I need the CD, it has the targeting codes, blah blah blah, right? It's a Hollywood movie. None of it makes sense because, well, it's Hollywood. It's not supposed to make sense. It's meant for entertainment. But the point is, I just liked that movie because of all the technology from when I was a kid. So this was one of the laptops in that movie, or the laptop in the movie, where Travis Dane is like, you cannot get past my encryption program, and then Steven Seagal shoots the laptop with a gun. Well, yeah. Anyway, so that's kind of what I'm fascinated about. But anyways, this has a nice little Varda bomb in it, which this is not even branded Varda, so it may not even be a Varda. Point is, it's gotta go. So, yeah. Yeah, this thing is not fun to take apart either because there's 50,000 screws that go in 20 different directions. So it's fun, but we'll get there. We'll get there. Wow. There's a warranty. That's kind of amazing. Bye-bye warranty. Ah, so better. So better. So much better. Okay, so basically the reason why I'm taking this board stack apart is because the problem with these is they go bad because there's capacitors in here, like everything anymore, that start leaking and causing grief. So, yes, now I gotta figure out how this comes apart. I think there's a screw here that I have to get off. There is. The board stack has a ton of screws. It's like this crazy sandwich thing. It's kind of nutty, actually. There we go. And you can see them just peeking out in there. Nice and juicy, I'm sure. Being a Toshiba, I guarantee we're going to have the same kind of Toshiba problems that we always have. So, okay. So there's the 486SL. There's the power supply module, which is probably the issue. And then we have the couple of caps here that have to go 33 at 6.3, but those are really easy to change. It's not a big deal. It's all these funky ribbons. And you know, these ribbon bonding could be why on the other one I'm having problems with the floppy drive. It's hard to say, but anyways, yeah, this thing's heavily corroded. So this is the gate array that's responsible for the floppy disk drive, because you can see the traces running out into the chip. So, and there's the cap. One of the caps is right there. So I wonder, maybe that's why. Okay, well, yeah, it's possible that there's a broken connection between here and here on the other board. That is possible. You know what? I'm going to pay attention to that when I fix this board, because I've got to, well, it's all one piece. I can't just like take this one module out and go put it on the other board. I can't. I literally have to fix this board. So that I'm going to have a spare board stack that I don't know what I'm going to do with. So, yeah. Anyways. Story of my life, right? Okay, so I'm going to dive in here and start getting into this a little more. But you can definitely see the leakage and all that stuff with all these caps. It's such a common problem. Alright, so I got all the new caps installed, and we definitely had some damage traces on there, but I didn't see any breaks. But what I did find out, there's a couple of vias under there, and they're right up underneath the floppy connector. So I'm starting to have my suspicions with the other board, now that I saw that and paid attention. But anyways, there's a cap under there, I replaced it. So I got all these caps just kind of in here. And unfortunately with this, I have a 15 millimeter height restriction, and I do not have those low profile, low ESR caps in. So, unfortunately, this thing's not going to close. But for testing, that doesn't matter. I just want to get this thing set up to where I can actually test with it, make sure everything's good, make sure I can boot from floppy, read the floppy, and all that stuff. Because if I can, then all that matters is I'll just take the power supply off the other board and just move it into this one, because I already recapped the other one years ago, so it's got the right caps on it. So anyways, this is perfect enough for testing, so I'm just going to leave it like that, and we're going to do some testifications. Now, I don't know if the original display works, so that's going to be TBD, to be determined. Alright, LCD's connected, power's connected, so here we go. Pulling current. Oh, hey, we got a hard drive. Yeah, I can't really see anything. I don't think that's working. Oh, I got a beep. Let me pull the lights, because I can't really see anything. Oh, wow, it's working. It's just very, very dim. Backlight's probably worn out, or the caps are bad. Well, I know the caps are bad, but it's working. It's the motherboard's posting. Okay. Turn the power off. Motherboard is posting. Okay, step one complete. Now, we still need to service the floppy drive, but before I do that, what I want to do is I want to go grab my other machine, and I want to grab the floppy drive out of that machine and put it in here. And I want to see if this will boot from and run off of the floppy drive. Because if it does, then I know for a fact the controller is bad on the other board, right? Because I've already serviced the floppy drive, well, how many times? If you've watched the previous video. So it's like, I've tried like 2 different drives, 3 different drives. So, yeah, let me go grab that and get that connected in here and see what it does. And see if it'll actually boot from it. Alright, so we're up and running. We're booted from the C drive. There is an OS on it. So let's put the floppy disk in. Now this is the drive for my other unit that's giving me all of these problems. So I'm hoping come on. Grr, dang it. So it's not the board, because this board's doing the exact same thing. Okay, well, yeah, that's an issue. Alright, well, I guess we're going to have to, work on the original floppy drive then, because this is a different drive, same cable. I went through like 2 different drives, and it's still giving me the same problem. So, well, alright, well, I guess we're going to have to service the other floppy drive and hope that it works. Because, yeah. Well, let's keep plugging away. Deja vu. Well, this is the 3rd drive. 3rd time's a charm, I hope. So, the original belt is completely perished. It's just totally gone. This one is out of a Citizen W1D, which is, completely perished for that drive, but it's also less big as this one, right? So, what I've done was I've put in a brand new Citizen W1D belt, because this is the EME 278 drive. The 279 belt won't fit in here. It's too big. But these Citizen W1D belts should do it. So, we'll give that a try and see what happens. I'm hoping it works. Oh, also, the last thing I'm going to do, which I didn't do on the last drive, is, one, I changed the leaky cap that was here, but I didn't use a ceramic this time. And then also, I'm going to take my deoxit and clean the zebra strip and pad for the track 0 sensor. Because if it doesn't sense track 0, you're going to get the drive not ready either. Possibly. I don't know. So, let's try this out and see what happens. Alright, so we're hooked up with the refurbished new belt on the drive. And we're dealing with the same exact crap as before. It won't read. Now, what I did notice, though, is the RPM is not consistent. You see how it's slowing down and speeding up? It won't maintain speed. That's a first clue. The RPM is not able to maintain speed, and if it can't maintain speed, it's never going to read. So, I don't know why that is. That's strange. It's not able to maintain speed, and perhaps that's what's wrong with the other drive, too. Maybe these modern belts are too tight, they don't fit right, I don't know. But it's not able to maintain speed, you can just kind of tell. You can see it speed up, slow down, speed up, slow down, speed up, slow down. So that's our problem. We're not able to maintain speed on the drive, and if you can't maintain the steady 300 RPM, well, it's never going to read the disc. So I think what I have to do next is still not going to solve my problem, but here we are, the third drive in with the exact same fault. So every single one of these drives are doing that, and the only wild card between the three, because we got two different computers, three different drives, the only wild card is the belt. So it must not like those belts. But it's not able to maintain spindle, because on the spindle here there's a feedback loop, so it's supposed to maintain the 300 rpm locked speed. It's not doing that. It looks like it's kind of hunting around. So if it's not able to get up to speed, it's never going to work. But now the next question is why. I could put image disk on this drive and then perform a rotational speed check to see what it's putting out. It could just be something stupid. I don't know. So, yeah, we could do it that way and see what happens. See if we're actually getting anything at all. But yeah, I was trying to find a camera app that uses the camera to calculate RPM, if that's a thing. It may not be a thing, and I kind of found some stuff, but it seems like every single app on the Play Store now is just riddled with ads. You can't even use it. It's like every button you hit pops up an ad that's loud, and it pops up another ad, and it pops up I can't do that. So moving on, we're gonna do something different. All right, so here's what I've done now, which isn't going to matter because it's going to do the same thing. So here's what I've done now. I took the cable off of this drive here, and what I've done is I've found an Epson SMD 1100 drive, which is the same exact pinout, except it's a newer drive that has a direct spindle like a standard ordinary laptop drive does. And I know this drive works, so it's doing the same exact thing. That makes me wonder if we've got a problem with the controller in the same exact way the other one is. How ironic is that? It's like, I'm really, really starting to lose my patience, though. I'm about to throw in the towel and take a radically different approach with this. I have one more drive that is in a newer Toshiba that works. I gotta pop the drive apart and see if it has the same pinout, because not all of them do. Some of them have a higher density cable and it's different, so you got to pay attention to that. But it appears that they're all the same 26 pin Citizen W1D series pinout, but I've got one more drive that's in a Toshiba parts laptop that does boot from the floppy. It does work. And if that does the same thing with this, then we've got a problem. There's a chance that the same connection or via is open under here as it is on the other board. Because like I said, there's a capacitor directly under here that leaks that I've replaced, but I can't see underneath this connector without removing it. And since it's dual side surface mount, trying to remove that would probably be fatal. Honestly, I don't know. I'm kind of grasping at straws here. So we're now 2 laptops and 4 drives in with the same problem. Because I can't get a floppy drive working, I'm trying to plan for the inevitable, which unfortunately I'm not getting very far. So what I've tried to do is I've tried to use one of these SD card to IDE adapters. So what I've done is I installed that into this machine up here, so I could put a floppy disk into it, format the SD card. I tried it in both LBA and non-LBA mode because this is a slightly newer BIOS. It supports that. F-disked it, partitioned it, formatted it with the system files, and it won't boot. It just hangs. So I moved it over into this device, and it does the same thing. It just hangs. It detects the full capacity of the SD card, but it won't boot from it. So I'm thinking that these SD to IDE adapters do not support the older non-LBA style BIOSes that do not use the INT13 extensions where you but it detects the full capacity. I don't know. So what this is leading me to is we've got a market gap. And what that market gap is we need an actual blue SCSI like device for IDE. What we need is we need an IDE to SD card interface that can emulate the older drive standards, like this stuff here. So this stuff here is something that these SD card emulators do not emulate. So it's these SD cards need like the more modern IDE systems, like the 20 gigabyte and higher drives use, right? So it would work with that environment, but it won't work on these older BIOSes, and it goes vice versa. Like if you try to use these older hard drives on those modern USB to IDE adapters to try to plug this into a modern computer, it won't detect it. It's the same mechanism. I'm not sure what it is, but there's a protocol change or something that's gone over the years that it creates cross compatibility problems across the IDE bus, right? So what we need is we need an IDE to SD card emulator that emulates the older standard that these older machines relied on, like the old CHS standards. That's what we need. An image disk run here. So, like I said, I've checked all of the floppy connections to the actual connector on the board. It's fine. I also checked all the connections on the connector back to the various chips. They all go to the gate array and they're all good. There's no breaks. So both motherboards do exactly the same thing, right? And I've tried like 4 different drives over the lifespan of this machine. So, all right, so I've put the best floppy drive in here, and we're going to go to try to do an alignment test with the image disk utility and see what we can figure out. Now, I got image disk on here through juggling this love triangle of 3 different computers to get to this point. So yeah, it's in here now, so we'll go ahead and try that. All right, floppy drive is on, the disk is spinning, but it's not really doing anything. And it gives up. Alright, so it's not even trying. It's not even just, it's like it's looking for a ready signal from the gate array, but we're not getting there or something. I don't know. It's not purporting an error, but it's not really working. So I'm just going to abort that. Let's do an RPM test. I think it's going to do the same thing. Yep. All right. Well, that's going to be it, I guess. So that's it. Fast forward a little bit of time, and now we have not 2, but we have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 Toshiba T4600s now. Now there's 5 in front of this picture. So I have my main Mint 4600C that has a bad floppy controller because I've tried different drives, I've tried different belts, I've tried all kinds of things. So then I bought another one of these for parts, and it had the exact same problem. So, okay, well, come to find out, there's an e-waste recycler in California, had 5 more. So I got 5 more. I got these pretty cheap. So I got 5 more of these as parts units. These are all, missing pieces and damaged and has other little issues going on. So they're all parts machines. This is okay because it's like I can't give up that easy. And this is literally the scientific method that we've all learned in grade school, but at the same time, this is also the definition of insanity. And what I mean by that is I'm trying the same thing over and over and over again, expecting a different result. Hopefully, between all 5 of these, we have a good floppy controller gate array that's on the motherboard. So I have a theory. There's no basis of foundation here, but I have a theory that the reason why the floppy controllers are getting damaged is people are turning these on with bad capacitors and it's killing the gate array. or the capacitor goo is getting into it and it's damaging it. I don't know. I really don't. Now, I have parts machines for days now. So between all of these, I hope I have a decent floppy controller, because this is getting old really fast. So no boot, cursor only. Now these things have not been turned on in decades. These were tested before the capacitor started to go bad. And I made sure that the person who was at the e-waste recycler did not try to power these up, because the last thing I wanted to do was knock out 5 more Gatorades, potentially. I don't know. So, anyways, now these are all in various states of disrepair. I've noticed there are cracks in the plastic, so I'm starting to wonder if these are starting to suffer from brittle plastic disease like everything else. But anyways, if we look at the rear, they're all missing the doors, which is fine because they're all parts units. One of them has a completely destroyed dock here. Yeah. That might be the motherboard I start with first. I don't know yet. We'll have to see, but some of them are missing screws. These things were all parted out. These were, I think, if I were to guess, these were probably the leftovers from someone trying to make some of them working. Maybe at a laptop store. I don't know. But anyways, let's just grab one of them and we'll take it apart and we'll inspect the board and see what we got going on. Alright, so we saw the first one. Now I'm down to the second one, and this one indicates that it's got a P31 error, which that's the sign of bad capacitors, which means there's already a chance that the floppy controller has been damaged. So we're going to just bypass you. I'm not messing with you. This one is unknown. It's a plain Jane 4600, which means it has a monochrome display, but it's also got busted plastics here. These things have been through it. No scratches or vinegar syndrome. Appears to be in pretty good condition, so that might be a contender for doing some repairs. It only has the damaged motherboard. Some cracks here and there, but we'll see. This one, no video, charges, boots. So there's probably something wrong with the LCD or something along those lines. I don't know, but that might be a contender. We'll see. This one is another 4600. It looks like it's U.S. Navy property tag. Oh, it's completely busted. So this thing is definitely a parts machine. Ooh, this one has the door. So this one's complete. Oh, that's cool. So this one's complete. Okay. So, between all of these, I might be able to have enough parts to make another good one. Maybe. We'll see. But the most important thing is hopefully we have one with a functional floppy controller. I know people have complained that I repeat myself a lot in these videos. Don't mind me. I'm autistic, so I tend to do that. Oh boy. This one is definitely got vinegar syndrome. It's got a busted display housing on the rear, so, oh, it's got a cute smiley face. This might be the one I start with. So yeah, let's start with this one since it's junk anyways. Not with this particular one. Yeah, that's fucked. But hey, I guess these plastics aren't immune either. I'm just gonna continue to strip it down for parts and hope this motherboard's good. The one thing I've not checked, and I don't know, it's in the back of my mind now, is I have not tested the power, to satisfy whether the voltage from the batteries have to be present for the floppy controller to work or not. Sounds weird, I know, but I don't know. What? I just noticed something. So, like I said, this laptop has got a U.S. Navy property tag. So it was from the military, but they left the hard drive in, and the hard drive doesn't look physically damaged. They better hope this didn't have classified information on it, because if it did, we've got a problem. So, I think, though, I'm just going to do the right thing and either... I don't want to destroy the hard drive because they're getting more rare. I'll probably just fire this up with a adapter and just do a full low-level format and just clear off any data on it without even looking at what it is, because I don't need the liability. Okay, well, after tearing all of that apart and 50 million screws later, we're down to the motherboard. And this motherboard is about as bad as they come. So you can see how badly damaged the board is here. Luckily, this one's not bad because this is where the floppy controller is. So we have to clean up all this, check traces, make sure there's none broke, patch them if they are. We have this one here that needs replaced. And then we got one right there that needs replaced. And there's one right here that needs replaced. Now, again, this has been... Oh, and there's another one. This has been years long in the making, so I don't remember, but I don't recall if I've changed this one or not on all of my other boards. Now look how bad it's eating the traces out. So yeah, that's a severe problem, because if there's traces broke between the two chips, because there's the north bridge and then the south bridge, that could prevent the floppy controller from working too. So, yeah, I've got to check all of that in my other ones, because I might have forgotten. Also, yeah, looking at the power supply module, you can see the liquid. They all got to be recapped. Every single one of these have to be recapped. And that's the unfortunate thing is, because I have to recap all of this, spend a whole bunch of time just to know if the floppy controller or there's any other faults with this board or not. Because I've already got a parts board where I've just worked on one. I got to uncap that board because there's no sense in even having it. And move those caps over here, because why waste the caps? I might just keep the power supply from the other one and just move it over instead. But recap the logic board and try again. Because otherwise, you know, anyways. By some miracle, besides this one, this pad here, which actually connects up here, it's rotten away there. There's actually no broken traces on this board. Either of these boards for that matter. I still have to do these two, but I'll get to that in a minute. So what I'm going to do is I am just going to take the DC converter board off of this one. And then I'm going to take the caps off, because this was a parts board that didn't work, that still had a floppy controller problem. So I'm just going to steal the capacitors off of this board and move them over here. And then try this one out and see what happens, because something's definitely up there. Also, I noticed with this board, to answer my own question from earlier, I did forget that capacitor. So that might be why it's not working either, but I've already committed this far, so let's just transfer all the parts over and see what happens. New caps are installed on the motherboard. Everything's all hooked up. Floppy drive. This is an Epson drive. This isn't one of those other ones that came with this machine. And that Epson drive, I'm pretty sure, is good. It just went to a different machine, so I wired it up to this one. And guess what? Same exact problem. So that's 3 motherboards in a row with the exact same problem. So I'm starting to wonder. So what I've done now is I've hooked up these batteries because I'm curious what happens. Because I wonder if that has something to do with it. I'm not sure though, but there's definitely a problem. Because I just can't imagine 3 motherboards in a row with the same problem not being able to read a floppy disk. That's so strange to me. I fucking got it. I got it. I got it. I got it. Look at that. I got it. I got it. You know what it is? PC floppy drives apparently don't use the ready signal. The ready signal is required by this motherboard. that signal here never goes low. It stays high. So what I did was I grabbed a friggin' clip lead and a DuPont wire. I grounded the ready signal and it booted. It booted. Holy shit. So now we know it works with the Epson floppy drive if I ground this signal. So we know we can roll out the whole logic board and everything. All right, so I dove into the floppy drive again, the original, and I'm looking at this closely. So the Epson drive works if I ground the I/O ready signal. It works fine. However, if I look at this one, pin 19 is the I/O ready signal, the ready signal, it's grounded. Because you can actually see it running into the ground. So, and I metered it out. So that's not why this drive is working. Or not working. So the only thing I can think of with this particular drive, the reason why it's not working is because with the replacement belt, the tension's slightly different, so it's running at the wrong speed, so the drive itself is not becoming ready. But I think this is the only adjustment I see on there. That potentiometer is probably the speed control adjustment. So yeah, we'll work with that and see what happens there. All right, so I got the original Panasonic drive back together, and I got the oscilloscope out, and I was probing everything. This is producing a proper cat eye pattern going out to the scope. But ultimately, the issue we're having here is the motor. It's definitely a spindle problem. The motor just can't get up to speed. So that prompted me to study this thing a bit more. So what I have in front of me is a parts drive. So one thing I've tried to make note here is we've got a motor with the belt and the spindle and all that stuff, but the motor itself must be just straight voltage driven and not PWM because there's a capacitor here. So this thing will just free run. But if we take a look over here on the spindle side, we have this PCB based inductor here. Well, that's the electronic brake. So this thing presumably sends pulses which slows the spindle down to the 300 RPM based on the tachometer feedback that comes from here. So that is exactly how this drive works from what I could quickly presume based on the design. So the thing is, in those cases, it makes the belt extremely important as far as the servo loop is concerned. Now this motor runs on 5 volts. So what I'm going to do for experimentation's sake is I want to unhook the motor from 5 volts because the newer belts are just offer too much drag. But I want to do something with the motor. I want to run it at a higher voltage and see if I can get that RPM up. All right, see, it's counting RAM. It'll be here in a minute. There's a lot of RAM in this thing. But you'll see the dot. See that? It does feel like it's running slow. It's really close, though. But it's just a tad too slow. So I think what I'm going to have to do is speed that motor up. Let's see what happens. Alright, so I tried the power it externally, and it does work. It'll speed up to full speed, and then it slows down immediately after that. So the drive servo is kicking in, and it's running it at about half speed. I don't know why that's the case, but I've been screwing off and on with this thing for last at least 5 years. So it's time to move on. It's time to move on. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to use this Epson drive. Since I know this drive works, these drives are kind of expensive because they're used in test gear, but I know this drive works. I've got the ribbon cable in there. Now, this thing is pinned out reverse of what it expects, but it does work. Just remember, pin 1 and 2 is not on this end. Pin 26 is on this end. But, yeah, it's working fine. And what I did was I added the little busy signal jumper wire there, or the ready signal, I mean, which I wonder if this blade sets that up. I'm not sure, but the only way I know that works is to jump that out. So that's what we're going to use, which means trying to get that to actually fit in the case is going to be yet another challenge, because the front case is molded to fit the specific drive that this was designed for. Now this drive is a little bit taller, but it still fits within the dimensions, because I can put this little cage thing in there and it works. It fits. But the trouble is going to be the front cover, because the front cover does work. Like, I can fit the disc in there. It's the right height. It's all good. The problem is the eject button's right here instead of here. So I have to cut a hole down here for the eject button. Now, I won't likely do that with my good minty Toshiba. I'll probably just take this parts unit and cut a hole in there for practicing, because I don't really care, and just do it this way. So what else you gonna do? So I went ahead and took the lid off the Epson drive so I can get the face off, the LED off, and all of that. That way I can get to the button here and measure out where I have to drill the holes. I just want to drill a blade hole. I don't want to cut this whole thing out. We'll see how that works out in a minute. Yeah, one thing I noticed right away, though, is these very rarely ever leak. But those, on the other hand, I need to check that. That's a 47 at 35. If it's leaking, I need to replace it. Alright, so unfortunately, I have to take the risk and tear this thing all the way down, because I looked at the caps, and sure enough, they're leaking. Like, that one's really bad. It's all over the board. The board has to be cleaned, and even those two are sizzling too. It's really, really bad. Ugh. I can't escape capacitors, I swear. That was a royal pain in the ass. Things are just growing exponentially over here. But in order to get to these capacitors, you can see the goo that's all over the film here. This board had to come out. I had to pull all of this out. I had to take the entire thing apart all the way down just to get to it. It's crazy. So yes, if you own an Epson SMD 1100, yep, you're gonna have to do this. Alright, so I got it all cleaned up. Now I'm just in the process of getting the capacitors reinstalled. I got new ones. All the old ones over there. These little ones were also leaking. I think they were probably low ESR type, which for something like this probably doesn't matter a whole lot, so we're just gonna roll with it. Alright, so the new capacitors are installed in the floppy drive. Hopefully that one's not too tall, but anyways, we'll see. I'm gonna turn the power on. You can see my little RPM dot. We are powered on. See what happens here. Hopefully this one's... I didn't ruin this drive trying to take it apart, but we'll see. Nah, it's working. That drive certainly works a lot better than that damn Matsushita drive. Yeah, we're good. Alright. At least we have something to make the Toshiba work. So now we can proceed forward with modifying the plastic to get all that together. It almost looks factory. Well, besides the hole there and the added eject button there. That's the Epson drive. And it actually might work. Surprisingly enough. I can put a... Nope. Not gonna... I gotta get rid of the door, I think. But yeah. The other reason why I've been putting so much work into this type of a laptop is because... Well, here's a prime example. This... I don't know what the history of this plastic was or where it was stored. But after I did the floppy drive modification, I'm going to do a small modification here to hide an SD card. Now look at this. This plastic is not brittle at all. This has a lot of flex in it. So, I don't know what they made this plastic out of. It's still polycarbonate ABS, but whatever mixture this is, it's not brittle. Alright, so the next thing I want to do, and I know I've tried this before and it didn't work, but I'm going to try it again. And that is to do the SD card solution. And this time I put the SD card where the hard drive would typically go, and I just cut out this piece of plastic, which is not brittle at all, by the way. It's still pliable. So, and then I'm gluing this down, because what I'm going to do this time around, now that I got a functional floppy drive, I'm going to use the drive overlay software from OnTrack, because I didn't try that before. Before, I just installed DOS and it wouldn't boot, just a blinking cursor. But I think if I use the drive overlay software, which has a modified bootloader, it'll solve the problem, because I'm pretty sure that's what it is. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm just going to... Alright, so now I got my unit taken apart, my original one, and sure enough, I did forget that friggin' capacitor, so I'm going to have to get this thing back apart and get under there and take care of that. Now, unlike the other motherboard, that's what that pad is supposed to look like. So anyways, I have to do that one, and then I forgot another one too. I forgot this one up here, so it's a good thing I took this thing back apart anyways, because otherwise it was a ticking time bomb. And yeah, it had leaked, of course, they all do. So yeah, got to get a cap in there. Alright, so here we go. It's all back together now. We've got the modified Epson floppy drive installed. So let's see what happens. Now, the SD card is installed. Actually, if we take a look, I'll move the battery out. The battery, the SD card is right there. It's inside that little black thing. So this thing now has a hidden SD card solution instead of a hard drive. Because anyways, power on, we're turned on. Let's see what happens. For some reason, this screen is really dim, and I don't know why. So let's see. Okay, it's wanting basic. So here we go. Let's put the disc in here. Goes in there without any trouble. Holy crap, it's starting DOS. Oh yeah, that's cool. There's gonna be no C drive. Or maybe there is. I remember having trouble with this SD card solution before. Alright, well, what I need to do is I need to go look for the OnTrack drive overlay and see if that solves it. So, alright, so now we're going to try booting up off of the OnTrack software here. Thought it was this disk, but no. Enter the defaults. I keep forgetting this is kind of a slow machine. Alright. Okay, easy disk installation. High-speed SD to CF adapter. So, let's see how that works. Alright. We're going to do Windows 3.1, FAT16. Alright. Okay. Let's see what happens. See if it boots the OnTrack software at least. Oh, there we go. Okay. I need both. Oh, here we go. See, insert the first, press spacebar. Let's see. Format C:/S/Q. Yep. Alright, reboot. Yeah, it's not really... Yeah, let me work at this for a minute. See, all I had to do was hit the escape key and there it is. Wow, it's working. So I can use the SD card on this machine. You just need the overlay software. Nice. Things are going swimmingly over here now. Finally. Just now getting Windows installed. I've already got DOS installed. Yeah. You know, why not? Why the hell not? I have the discs. Aw, dang. Only I would be crazy enough to come up with this meme. This is mind-blowing to me. My old Roadrunner email address still works with these old email clients. They did kill the SMTP server, though. That requires secure authentication, but the POP server is still alive. Now, this email address I've had since I was a kid. I don't use it anymore because it's become a spam net catcher. Like, you know, this don't click that link. That's all spam. Because it was involved in so many data breaches. So this is really a dead account. And matter of fact, that was on my parents' Roadrunner account when I was a kid. That account hasn't been active in years and years, but it still works. I can still log into it and use the email. So the only way I use that email these days is to just sign up for dodgy forums or stuff online, because now I use my Gmail account. I don't use that email anymore, but so I've migrated all the important stuff off of it, and this is just all spam, so I don't really care. Anyways, it's just fascinating to me that the email client actually works on this old machine with Roadrunner's email. And that account is not even being paid for anymore. And it's like, it's long forgotten in their systems. They just don't care. But anyway, so I think that's it. I'm going to conclude this video here. So this machine is finally done. I'm finally happy with it. Is it perfect? No, but you know what? It's usable. So, and I'm happy with that fact. So anyways, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe and all of that fun stuff. Feel free to leave a comment if you have one. Until next time, guys, thank you for watching.